we're good enough.
Good. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the fight yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So Khabib wins via arm triangle in the second round. So we had the discussion about predictions beforehand. I kind of understated some of the weaknesses that Justin had, but typically that happens, right? You overestimate and you underestimate things.
I'll tell you though, that's the first time I've ever seen someone transition from a rear naked into an arm bar into arm triangle that fast.
Yeah. So the big thing that like my takeaway for the fight was, so it started off with Justin always on the back foot. So it looked like he was very committed to his game plan. So I don't know if you saw, but there was like a screen cap from one of the embedded podcast episodes where it showed the whiteboard and showed what the game plan was. It was like a spiral, right? Like a circle that just keeps going back, like in circles, like a clockwise or counterclockwise, which way it was. It looked like he stuck to that game plan very, very concretely, to the point where I expected him to try to clinch at some instances. But what happens is when you don't want to clinch, or you refuse to clinch and you always escape, you never get set like Justin wanted to, right? So
what confused me though is that like you're saying that he was pushed back the whole time, but I think for the first 2 minutes actually he was the one that was being aggressive towards Khabib. You know, he would walk in and he would just keep throwing his overhand right and his left hook. I think he actually landed one, right? Like, yeah,
so the times that he was able to set up, right, where he's able to plant his feet and throw, he was throwing that overhand right and he was hitting Khabib. But then as it kept going on, Khabib realized, hey, I can't let him set up and plant his feet because I'm going to get hit. And he got hit pretty badly a couple times, right?
2 times, yeah.
It could be a testament to his chin or his big head, but he got hit many times with the overhand right, at least twice that I saw. But the thing is that Khabib made an adjustment where he refused to let him to set his feet, and when you do that, the opponent is supposed to or is more likely to clinch, right? But it looked like Justin did not want to clinch at all.
Like Khabib tried clinching once, I think, right? And then Justin just completely just pushed away and backed off. I think that was also towards the middle of the first round, right? Like in the middle of the first round, like the first 2-3 minutes, I think it was all Justin. And then towards the end, after the takedown, I think after that, you could say it was Khabib's.
Because Khabib made the adjustment. He realized that Justin was not willing to clinch, and he was simply just circling around the center of the cage. So
but what about Khabib striking, huh? What about Khabib striking?
So he made that adjustment. Like I know I'm not the biggest fan of Khabib's of striking, because when you compare it to people in his class, in the top 5 or wherever it may be, they are much better strikers. However, Khabib has better utilization of his striking. What I mean by he uses his striking to his advantage. So he only uses it tailored to what he's really good at, and that's wrestling. So,
but his coach even said though that like a few weeks ago, he was saying that his jab has really improved. And when you watch the fight, you could see.
What coach is not going to say that? But yeah, his jab is very good, right? His jab is very good, but jab is not your whole striking repertoire. So Khabib realized that this guy does not want to wrestle with me. He wants to go in circles and does not want to clinch. So what's the game plan for that? Is you constantly push him, and then you get him against the fence, which he did, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I overestimated overvalued for Justin was his jiu-jitsu, right? So his overall grappling game. He prior to that, we all knew that he's not very fond of jiu-jitsu, which Khabib probably probably knew before going into there.
You know, actually, a quick question. I actually don't know what level Khabib is at in jiu-jitsu. Like, what belt does he have?
I think he's a sambo player, right? So sambo,
he's sambo, right? But
combines like jiu-jitsu elements and wrestling elements. So I don't know. I assume if there is a black belt level, he's on the highest tier because he's been doing it since he's a kid. But you can tell his work on the ground is high level, right?
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah.
So the issue was that once Justin got up, what his instinct is, what we saw before in other fights, is he will get up instantly. However, he gives up his back, right? When you give up your back to a guy that's high level grappling on the ground, he will jump on your back. And what he did there was that he transitioned and ultimately got a triangle, right?
Yeah.
So very, very well done by Khabib. Took his strengths and matched it up with Justin's weakness and game plan much better than
it was actually
anticipated.
a mounted triangle, wasn't it? And then he transitioned over into just a.
If you look in modern MMA, right, you rarely see any triangles anymore.
Yeah.
Before, what happens is that you would always see triangles here and there, right? Because the jiu-jitsu level across MMA wasn't that high, right? But now, today's day, getting out of the triangle or getting caught in a triangle is very rare, right? And it kind of seems like it makes sense that Justin Gaethje got caught in a triangle because his jiu-jitsu is barely non-existent, right?
Yeah.
He didn't like.
He's basically like a wrestler and a striker, right? That's all he really is. And then even then, his wrestling, it's been like barely shown in the UFC, right? So I guess he had it coming.
His ability to get his jiu-jitsu defense up high enough for this fight was not there. So prior to this fight, he would have had 3 months or whatever month time that he had to prepare for this fight. He's not going to be able to develop a defense that would be.
How long ago did he fight Tony Ferguson?
It was during this whole Fight Island thing. So maybe 2 or 3 months ago. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he's not going to develop a jiu-jitsu game or a defense strong enough to defend against a guy that's been doing it his whole life.
Fast, yeah.
Right. So kudos to him. Great fight, great finish. He played to his strengths, to Justin's weaknesses, and was.
But like a few times, man, like I thought he was getting rocked, and if he kept eating those, he would have went down. Yeah. But yeah, he adjusted.
The thing is that he's barely taken any damage in his career.
Yeah.
So he's not as weathered as all these other guys. So it's very similar to the situation where John Jones, early in his career, he was taking no damage.
Yeah.
And the question was, does he have a chin? Not getting hit for like years of your career also helps develop your chin, right? Because you haven't been tested as much, and it's fresh, and brain damage, not as much brain damage and whatnot. So I think that also a contributor, but also he might just have a good chin in general.
And a big head, huh?
Humongous head. One of those Russian heads. It actually came out that that before this fight, he broke his foot 3 weeks prior.
I think who announced it? It was Dana White,
from
right?
his camp.
Yeah, but in the post-press conference, he announced it.
Yeah, so somebody in Khabib's camp told Dana that, hey, he broke his foot 3 weeks prior.
That's pretty ridiculous, eh? To have a training camp, and then even then, telling nobody,
Yeah.
That's a pretty bad injury.
That's not the only thing that came out. So another thing came out was that Javier Mendez, his coach, said that back in September, Khabib actually contracted mumps.
Really?
Yeah. So he had mumps. So mumps is something that the Western world and a lot of Europe and stuff get vaccinated for. Mm-hmm. It's MMR is a vaccine. So it's not as common anymore in the 21st century. However, in countries and areas maybe like Dagestan, he didn't get vaccinated as a child, right? So he contracted it in September, and he was able to recover in time and without anybody knowing that he had mumps.
But you think with the UFC they would have like their own vaccination protocols, but I guess not. That's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, actually,
That's pretty ridiculous when you think about it. You know,
they don't have any vaccination. I don't know if they ask them for their immunization cards and say, hey, in order to fight.
I mean, they probably don't if the guy has mumps, you know.
Yeah, but maybe he did have the vaccination. I don't know if the success rate for vaccination is 100%.
Yeah.
In terms of preventing mumps, but
good thing he was okay. You know, if he pulled out, it would have been a disaster for his card and him.
So mumps is it's a virus relating to saliva, I believe. So your face gets inflamed. There's other side effects. It's not too deadly, however, it does affect your performance and it affects your overall health with fever and whatnot. So to think that he got mumps in September, even if it was mild, right? He still had to deal with that and recover within a time span of 40 days. If he got in the beginning of September or mid-September, 50 days, which is kind of adds to the legend, right?
Of course, yeah.
One person that's not a fan of Khabib was Nate Diaz.
Nate Diaz, huh?
Did you see his tweet?
So he tweeted last night, right? I didn't see it, but I saw it on the outline we have right here. He's saying that no one has a jiu-jitsu.
He says, none of these guys know jiu-jitsu. Poirier, Gaethje, McGregor. I ain't eating this up like y'all. Which he's not wrong.
Yeah, but like, who's gonna talk? You know, he tried using some against Jorge. Jorge just grounded and pounded him. And I feel like if Jorge can do that to you, then Khabib's gonna murder you. You know. So I don't know. That's how I see it. But this guy talks too much these days.
He's not wrong though. He's not wrong. These guys don't have any jiu-jitsu. Like Conor, his jiu-jitsu is underrated in terms of his defense. Ever since he's started his ascent back when he was facing like Dennis Seaver and then went on to face like Chad Mendes and stuff. He's actually made it a point to improve his jiu-jitsu defense, right, and his wrestling defense. So I'm actually a person in the camp of probably out of all the people that faced Khabib, Conor did the best, right?
Yeah, he did.
He
won a round, right? So
he was able to stop some takedowns. Not necessarily like the final result wasn't he stopped the takedown, but he like held off Khabib. When Khabib had it on the ground, he didn't take that much damage. He was able to get up and strike him. He won a round, right? So
and like adding on to what you said too, Coach Javier Mendes, he was even saying that if you compare him and Gaethje, he still considers Conor the toughest opponent so far.
Yeah,
right. Because like, he also won a round, right? So you can't.
Yeah.
So against him.
There's a lot of people who will say, "Oh, Conor got smashed," blah blah blah. But out of all the people that has competed against Khabib so far, Conor has done the best and still has done.
Him
the
and
best.
Yaquinta, I think.
Yaquinta was a different story. He wanted to strike a lot more. Khabib, that is. He wanted to show his striking. From according to his camp as well, we're saying, hey, this guy didn't really put the best effort into his takedowns when he was doing the fight. So that's a lot of excuses, right? But Yaquinta did fairly well. He stayed very, very low and struck and countered Khabib's attacks. So all in all, now that it's all over, Khabib tells his after the win, he tells his corner to quiet down. He tells him easy, puts his head down in the middle of the ring and starts to weep, right?
Yeah.
Starts to cry. This is like some movie anime kind of things.
You know who compared it to Michael Jordan? Helwani. He was like it was the same thing almost, right? Because when he lost his father,
the championship.
Yeah, when he lost his father, he started crying too. It was a good comparison.
Yeah, the thing is that now talks are about his retirement are kind of people believe that he is indeed retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason why they say that is because Khabib and his character and his history, when he says something, he's speaking truthfully, right? So it's there's nothing behind what he's saying, and what he says is what he says. And the mass think that he is retired. Added to the fact that he put his gloves down, he made the announcement, hey, my mother asked me not to fight this one, but I went and fought this one, and it's my last one. But what I wanted to bring up was prior to this fight, so like the fight week build up, there was a lot of talk from the media anticipating some sort of retirement, not necessarily after this fight, but after the 30-0, right, or potential for 30-0. So if you look at some of his quotes, so he goes, 30-0, okay, it's going to be a great record. This is Mayweather in MMA. We'll see. I'm very close to it, right? He also goes on to say, 30-0 is going to be great. It's looking good. Sounds good, right? There's multiple references to the 30-0, right? He's currently 29-0, so he would need one more fight.
But what confused me is that all week he was saying that he wasn't going to retire. He kept telling all these guys. I think also there was, if you watched it, him and BT Sports, he was playing pool with one of the guys, and he was saying all video though that, oh, you know what, like I want to keep fighting these high level guys, so he won't retire anytime soon. We have the quotes
here. So he says, "I'm already in history, but I need legacy. For legacy, Justin Gaethje is a great opponent right now." Then he goes on to say, this is what give me good enemy, and I love competition.
Yeah.
Energy, sorry. This is what give me good energy, and I love competition. I really want to compete with high-level guys in this sport, and that is why I'm here. I don't know why people talk about my retirement. Maybe you guys are tired of me. A lot of media ask me about my retirement, but I want to compete. I like competition. I really want to compete with high-level guys. That is why I'm here. All my life, I'm doing this. And right now, I have a perfect opponent. He's really tough. A lot of people talk, and he's going to be the worst match for me. But we'll see. For my opinion, he went on to talk about George St. Pierre, which would be the 30-0 fight. Says, my opinion is my opinion. If you want to fight, come and make 155. He said when asked about GSP. I'm ready for him. After this fight, it's going to be a great fight versus GSP. Fans going to watch the fight. UFC loves this fight. I really want to fight him, and it's going to be the biggest fight in UFC history. He didn't lose 12 years. He didn't lose 13 years. And I think it's kind of a great history between him and me. So add to the fact that prior to the fight as well, Dana White actually said that he has something special in the works for Khabib. But Khabib actually requested for Dana White not to tell him what it was until after the fight. I imagine
this whole situation with his mother and him, did it happen recently, or was it like for a long time now? She was saying that like he doesn't want him to fight.
He just said it was prior to this fight, so it must have been when it was announced or offered to him, the Gaethje fight, that is. And then she told him, hey, don't fight, it's not right, blah, 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 blah. Not blah, 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 sorry. Not to be disrespectful, but she said not to fight, it's not right because your father's not with you, and Khabib ultimately chose to do it, but say this is the last one. So I don't think the chance of Khabib coming back and fighting GSP is off the table. I think that fight can be done in 6 months, can be done in 12 months, can be done in 2 years.
You think 2 years? Yeah, but GSP is getting there, man. He's not young anymore.
GSP is... So in the sport of MMA, it's not like basketball or it's not like football where you have this period where you have to perform because of limitations, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a 42-year-old in the NBA, most likely you're not going to be able to compete and help your teammates and stuff like that. Yeah. As opposed to MMA where it's individual, right? So it's just you in there, and it's fighting, right? So fighting, yes, you lose things that you don't have when you're younger. However, for some guys, it just doesn't translate as bad, right? So GSP, as we saw him when he fought Michael Bisping, he was like 36, 37. He was still very, very good, right? Even though he was really chunky because he had to go up to 185, but he actually was able to still perform. I don't think it will be that much of a limitation.
I just don't think it's gonna happen, because if it was gonna happen, it should have happened. And if you're gonna keep pushing it off, man, like I don't know, I just don't see it happening.
The UFC has no option though, right? So it's really, hey, Khabib said this. Let him take his time, let him mourn, let him go back to his motherland country. Let him, with time, everything, wounds heal, but not like completely, especially in this type of situation. But he knows, and he's made reference to the 30-0 being the ultimate goal. Right? Yeah. It's something that his father wanted for him, and he wanted him to complete that as a professional MMA fighter. So
you know what I could see, actually, instead of GSP, I could see Ferguson, because when you see what his father said, he said that he wants to fight all these top level guys. So he's faced Conor. I mean, he hasn't faced GSP yet, but his father did mention Tony Ferguson. And Tony Ferguson, like it could be a great fight. I think maybe if he has to fight GSP, I think he's gonna come back for 2 more fights. I think he would fight Tony Ferguson and then GSP. I don't see him just coming back just for GSP.
That's interesting. Yeah. We're gonna have to wait and see. I feel in the next 6 months to a year, we'll get a better feeling of what the situation is. He's gonna go back to Russia, and you have to realize these guys, all they do is train and stay in the gym and whatnot like that. So
also, like, what kind of confused me though is that he was saying that he's gonna stay in San Jose with Javier Mendez because he wants to help coach. So if he wants to help coach, then he's gonna be in America still. So like, I don't really get what he's saying about him staying back with his mother.
I'm not sure.
It's confusing.
So there's a lot of mixed information. However, we're just gonna have to wait and see what he does. Whether he comes back or not, it's probably the greatest lightweight in UFC history. Pound for pound is debatable as well as best. Currently, he's pound for pound number 1 on the rankings. He surpassed John Jones.
I think, but one thing that we know for sure is that he's eating good now. He's eating his burgers nice, and he's eating his omelets nice,
Diet omelet, diet burger.
Everything is done now. Now it's full food omelet and full food burger.
Okay, so we'll see what happens. But what's next for the lightweight division? So
what's next?
So what we have is, I'm just gonna make a statement. I'm gonna just say it. Conor versus Poirier is being scheduled for January 2021.
It's pretty ridiculous when you think about it.
I believe that's going to be for the lightweight title, the vacant lightweight title. So now people, the first reaction when I said that was, no, Conor doesn't deserve that. That shouldn't be the fight, blah, blah, blah. There's also people that are saying Gaethje should be the one that fights for it because he just came off the title fight and whatnot. I believe. So
I can tell you what I think, just quickly. So what I heard is that people want it to be some sort of like so basically they want 4 guys in the running. They want Tony Ferguson, they want Gaethje, Conor, and Poirier. So I have a question for you, because after what Khabib said, you know, it kind of it makes sense to me at least. Tony Ferguson, he's getting up there, right? He's gone through wars. Do you think he will realistically come back? And if he does come back, do you think he should be in title contention?
Yeah, he should come. He should come. He's going to come back. I don't think his fighting style, his personality and just his track record is someone that would just quit right now, especially just like the shape that he's in and the skills, just because of one loss, right? He's already
It was a pretty bad loss, though. It was a war.
Yeah, there's a lot that went into that fight, right? He changed opponents. He was preparing for Khabib, and then he got this counter striker who all of a sudden changed his whole style, right? And whatnot. So I believe Conor and Poirier are both fighters that are coming off wins, right? Justin and Tony are coming off losses, right? It's kind of hard to put one of those two in and validate why they should be fighting for the vacant title. Conor just came off a win off of Cerrone, and Poirier came off a fight against Dan Hooker, right? So, and who won the fight between him and Hooker? It was Poirier, right? Yeah, Poirier. So they both came off of wins, right? So Conor won his last fight, and Dustin won his last fight. Tony lost to Justin Gaethje, and Justin Gaethje just lost to Khabib. I believe. You
know what kind of fight I would love to see? Islam and Tony.
That's too
Islam
soon.
And Tony would be
we
too
can talk
soon,
about
but
Islam. We can talk about Islam. It's too soon. I love Islam, right? But
I think he's ready for anybody in top 10.
Yeah,
honestly,
you even though he might be ready for it, you can't just do that, right? You can't just go from being number 12 ranked all the way to the guy that had the longest win streak for a while, right? So you have Tony and Justin maybe fight again, right? As a rematch for the next contender, right? So
Tony and Justin too. You want that again? You're gonna kill this guy, Tony.
I think Tony wants it, right? But
I think Tony wants it, but I don't it's not the best fight for him, man. Yeah. Like after what I saw that first fight, I don't think he should do that again.
So the other person that's in the mix is also Michael Chandler. So you could do Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson for the number 1 contender, or Justin Gaethje and Ferguson, or Justin.
Did you hear what Khabib said about Chandler?
What?
Did you hear what Khabib said about Chandler? About he's gonna come here, he's gonna make weight, watch the fight, and go home.
That's what he did, right? Yeah, he's made his money.
His money left.
He made his money. He enjoyed the Abu Dhabi.
But what promotion does he come from?
Bellator. He was the
Bellator,
champion.
right? Okay.
So Bellator let him go after his contract finished. A lot of it had to do with the situation there, where he is a very good fighter, but he lost to their 45 champion, right? So it's kind of hard to market a guy that lost to a lighter weight class person, right? And he's getting older. They probably got the most out of him and didn't want to pay him so much money, so they just they let UFC snag him up. So the situation is that Conor Poirier is going to be a massive fight, which is what is crazy to me is in this matter of 24 hours, the idea that Conor can be champion again has
ridiculous.
Been availed. Like he could be champion again. And we can have the whole...
And the UFC loves it.
The UFC loves it. Of course they love it. Now they can put Khabib on the bench, right? You have this whole story. You can let that sink in. Conor can win the championship. What if Khabib goes, hey, listen, man, I need 30-0. I want my championship back. And it's Conor Khabib 2 for the championship. Oof. Oh, my God.
You know, honestly, I'd rather see that than him versus GSP. I think that fight with GSP and Khabib has already,
come and gone.
The ship has sailed already.
Yeah, but he
if
wants
it was going to happen, it should have happened. I know. Listen, I get that he wants it. But in terms of just money and buys, man, it's going to be Khabib and Conor too.
So the options are there, right? So the options are there. So we'll have to wait and see. But the lightweight division is very promising with a lot of the options that we have out there.
And Khabib's still pretty young too. He's only just 32.
He's 32. Yeah. So he has time. MMA, you can be whatever age and produce.
Hashtag Romero.
Yeah.
Hashtag Romero.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So let's move on to some fight news. Khamzat Chimaev is scheduled to fight confirmed Leon Edwards in December, which really surprised me.
Tell me about Leon Edwards, because I'm not too familiar with him.
Leon Edwards, the guy's a sick guy. He's from the UK. He is a fighter. He's on a pretty big win streak. He's beat some notable names. However, he hasn't.
He should have fought Thompson, right?
Yeah, so
that was the thing that was going to happen. I'm not sure if that's.
So we can go through the timeline, but Leon Edwards was most likely going to be given a title shot because of incidents with the virus and stuff like that. It just didn't pan out. He was sitting on the sidelines for a very long time. To the point where
whose weight class is again? This is the one with Adesanya, right?
No, it's 170.
Oh, sorry, no, 170. Sorry, who's 170 champion?
Usman. Kamaru.
Usman, okay, yeah.
So he sat on the bench, and UFC went to the lengths of removing him from the rankings in the welterweight division prior to this scheduled fight coming out. But there was talks about who's going to fight Khamzat, right? There's been people like Weidman that's been saying, okay, I'll fight him. Neil Magny came up to the table and said he'll fight him. But there's people like you mentioned, Wonder Boy, who didn't want to fight him, right?
Yeah.
The reason why he didn't want to fight him was same why other people didn't want to fight him. This guy is not even ranked. What do I really get out of it, right? If I fight him, I lose my position.
Do you think he's as good as he thinks he is, or no?
I think he has a lot of potential. It's just that we haven't seen enough to say he is top 5. He looks like he could be top 5, but we won't be able to tell until he faces somebody like Leon Edwards, which I'm super surprised that Leon took it. This is imagine you're in line for a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
And you're like second or third in line, and there's this guy that's all the way in the back who's yelling and screaming, right, and saying, "Yo, I want your spot. I want your spot." Why would you ever be like, "Hey, listen, come here. Yeah, sure. Let's see if you can take my spot." Right? Like, why are you risking? Right? Because if you lose, you go back to the beginning, right? You don't go all the way back where he is in line. However, the progress that you made.
And then would he take his ranking or no?
He wouldn't take his ranking. He would go down to probably like 5 or something, right? And then Khamzat would go to probably like 8 or something, right? It's not really like switching the spots, but it's something where I don't know why he's doing this.
It's a lose-lose, right? Like
it's a lose-lose, but one thing that Leon can get is he can get that hype train. If he completely destroys Khamzat, everybody that was on the Khamzat train will be like, hey, Leon Edwards is the truth. Give him a title shot. So I can see in that perspective. However, you're going to have to fight this guy that has very little fight time in the octagon, as well as just history. In terms of seeing where he fought in other organizations, what his tendencies are, and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting. I'm glad that Khamzat got a fight, so we can keep the storyline up and see where it goes.
And who's your pick?
I got to go with Leon Edwards. All right, it's just
I'm going with Khamzat.
Yeah, I think you're on the hype train.
No, it's not a hype train. Honestly, what had me convinced was what DC said after the fight.
Yeah,
he was just talking about like the way his wrestling is high level, his striking is high level. And when you combine those two, that's all you need to.
He's on the hype train too.
Division.
Don't get it twisted. He's on the hype train too, and he acknowledges.
He's a leader. He acknowledges.
He acknowledges that. Hey, I know some of these things might be unsubstantiated, right? However, I believe that he has it, right? And he probably does, right? It's a very high chance. However, Leon Edwards is no scrub, right? He's a top 3 welterweight right now, and has the potential just to shut down Khamzat's wrestling.
Yeah, but it's so weird though, because for the longest time, what I heard is that it was supposed to be Thompson and Leon Edwards, and then Thompson, he didn't want Khamzat, but he wanted Leon Edwards.
I don't think Leon wanted Stephen Thompson. Leon Edwards wanted a title shot, right? He's like, why do I keep fighting these guys to prove my position?
Poor Thompson, huh? This guy, he's always in the back.
Yeah, but also Thompson. So Thompson fought like Tyron Woodley and lost 2 times, and then he couldn't really fight for the title as long as Tyron was the champion. And then once around the time Tyron lost the championship, he got knocked out. Stephen Thompson got knocked out by Anthony Pettis, right? So his stock went down even more. So he's in this weird position where he's trying to get back up to the top, but at the same time he's not trying to be stupid about it.
I think maybe so him and Jorge are in the same division, huh?
Yeah, they're the same.
So so honestly, what I could see is him versus Jorge.
Yeah, maybe, but Jorge wants big money fight, so Jorge is probably gonna look to fight.
I think Jorge's kind of lost his hype as well. Like after that loss, it wasn't the best showing.
Yeah, but there's a lot of excuses that you can give, right? Short notice, he cut all that weight, didn't have a training camp at all, right? He got hugged the whole time. He barely had chances to strike. Lost the decision. Balloon, huh? He didn't get finished, right? He lost a decision to the champion, right? So he has one big win or one win for Jorge. He could probably be back in that picture for the title. Let's talk about another title is Israel Adesanya. So the fight that
he wanted Cannonier, right? But I guess
he wanted Cannonier. He wanted Cannonier. But if you really think about it, the UFC wanted Robert Whittaker, right? Yeah. The situation with Robert Whittaker is he's lost to Izzy. It was off of a layoff. He talked about how he had no motivation, or he lacked motivation. He was in a place where he wasn't in the best fighting place. After the win against Jared Cannonier, he made reference to Israel, and he said, "Hey, I honestly, I don't like the fight. I don't want to fight." Let me rephrase this. He basically is trying to say that even though Israel is the person with the title belt, he doesn't see it as something that he would necessarily care to avenge, right? So
what does he want then?
So he's really just wants the title, right? So it's kind of weird. It's a psychological thing, right? Is where you don't want to say, oh, he's scared of Israel Adesanya or intimidated, because these guys are fighters, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you wonder, does Izzy have Robert Whittaker's number, right? Does he know how just to beat him, right?
Honestly, I think what Whittaker's saying is that I think he's gonna wait for Adesanya to move up because of the potential of a fight versus Jones. And after that, the title is open.
Yeah, Izzy said that he wanted to fight John Jones in 2021. This was previously. That might make sense for him to wait, but I think the UFC really wants this fight just because of the New Zealand and Australia presence, right? Robert Whittaker proclaims the Australian side, and Izzy says he's from the New Zealand side, or he is from the New Zealand side. The potential for that fight is for that region is very, very high. The first fight did massive numbers for those regions, but one thing that is not really talked about, which would be very, very interesting, is if I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you've seen that New Zealand has 0 cases, right? Yeah.
So actually, I was going to mention that if that fight happens, maybe early of next year or very late this year, you could see some fans in attendance. So it would be a good gate.
So,
right? If they want to fight there,
Dana said that he does not want an empty or like a arena that's not full capacity, right?
Right.
There could be a scenario where you have Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya, maybe just a one fight card, right? Or something like that.
I heard that New Zealand and Australia, they have cases again.
I'm not
sure. They're at 0.
I haven't
but I think they went up again.
But they have a stadium full of people in some in the previous weeks where I've seen where
New Zealand is done. Yeah, you're right.
Right?
It's only like one case a day actually.
So imagine if UFC goes to New Zealand and says, "Listen, I know you don't want people to come into the country. How about we get these people tested? We keep them in a bubble, and you let us have them fight in a one fight card. We can host the rest of the fights in a different country and just like stream it, right? Whatever, broadcast it that way. Have those two guys fight." And in a full capacity arena, imagine how big that fight would be, with the hype and the crowd and like people around the world.
We saw it once and we saw what it did, right? So twice, it wouldn't hurt.
And then people will watch it too because the Western world is not very hasn't seen a big crowd for an event that they watch for a while now, right? Football, I think football has some people there, right? But like a percentage of people,
and baseball too.
And baseball, however, nothing at the capacity of like 50,000-60,000 people, which New Zealand could probably do. So. And regardless of who wins that fight, that just like from a political standpoint is very, very interesting. If UFC can pull this off, the greatest quarantine performance by any company ever.
Honestly, I mean, like, to be honest, like even from day one of quarantine, they've always been like one step ahead. You know?
Yeah.
They had Fight Island. They had in the Performance Center. They had everything.
Yeah.
So
good on them, right?
Good on Mr. Dana White, huh?
Good on Mr. Dana White. Okay, I think that's basically it for the news.
That's good,
We'll talk next week. We'll see what news is up, and we'll take from there. I think
sounds good.
We'll just cut this into segments.
Yep.
Just based off the titles, and we'll just upload them.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And then should we upload the full one too?
Why
not?
Yeah, we'll see.